When you think of the perfect breakfast, what comes to mind? For millions of people around the world, it's a warm cup of coffee paired with a golden flaky croissant. This crescent-shaped pastry has become a true icon, not just of French cafes, but of global breakfast culture. But here's something you might not know. The croissant didn't actually start in France. Its story begins centuries ago in Austria with a pastry called the Kipferl. It was later introduced to France, where bakers refined it with layers of butter and perfected that irresistible flaky texture we know today. Over time, the croissant became inseparable from French identity, spreading across Europe and eventually the world. Now, croissants are more than just food. They're a symbol of comfort, sophistication, and everyday indulgence. Whether it's a hurried commuter grabbing one on the way to work or a leisurely Sunday brunch in a Parisian cafe, croissants bring joy to countless small moments. And with industrial baking technology, millions of these pastries roll off factory lines every single day, ensuring that no matter where you live, you can enjoy this piece of culinary art. So today, let's step behind the scenes. We'll explore how ordinary ingredients, flour, butter, yeast, are transformed into layers of golden perfection. From mixing and laminating to proofing, baking, and filling, you'll see the fascinating journey of how croissants are made on a massive scale. Get ready, because this is not just about bread and butter, it's about history, craftsmanship, and a pastry that has taken over the world: lamination. First, the flour, water, yeast, salt, and a touch of sugar are combined inside massive industrial mixers. These mixers knead the dough until it develops the right elasticity. In a bakery, this might take 10 to 15 minutes, but in a factory, giant stainless steel arms can knead hundreds of kilos of dough at once, ensuring every batch is consistent. Once the dough is ready, it is flattened into large sheets. Here comes the star ingredient again: butter. Instead of mixing butter directly into the dough, bakers place a solid slab of butter on top of the sheet. Then, using powerful rolling machines, the dough is folded over the butter, sealing it inside like a precious treasure. This process is called lamination, and it's repeated over and over. Roll the dough flat, fold it, roll it again. Each fold doubles or even triples the number of layers. After several rounds, a single sheet of laminated dough can contain more than hundreds of paper-thin layers of butter and dough. Why go through all this effort? Because lamination is the secret to the croissant's texture. When baked, the butter melts and releases steam, which pushes the dough layers apart. The result, that heavenly flaky structure where the outside shatters with a crunch, while the inside stays soft and airy. In factories, lamination is fully automated. Machines as long as a small car roll out endless strips of dough, folding and layering them with robotic precision. Compared to hand rolling in traditional bakeries, industrial lamination not only speeds up production but also ensures every croissant has the same uniform texture. To visualize it, think of lamination like creating a pastry blanket, layer after layer stacked neatly until you have a multi-tiered structure. Or imagine origami, but instead of paper folds, it's butter and dough working together in harmony. Without lamination, a croissant would just be bread. With it, the pastry becomes an edible work of art, crispy on the outside, soft and buttery inside, and loved the world over. Once the dough has been laminated with countless layers of butter, it's time to give the croissant its iconic crescent shape. This step might look simple, but it's filled with both tradition and precision. The laminated dough is first cut into long triangles, each with a wide base and a sharp tip. In artisanal bakeries, bakers often use a rolling knife or a metal template to achieve identical sizes. In factories, however, enormous cutting machines slice the dough into perfectly measured pieces, ensuring that every croissant will weigh exactly the same. Each triangle is then rolled tightly from the base toward the tip. As it rolls up, the layers coil into a spiral, forming that distinct crescent shape. Finally, the tips of the dough are slightly curved inward, creating the signature horns of the croissant. But here's a fun historical detail: the crescent shape isn't just random. Legend has it that the croissant was inspired by the symbol of the Ottoman Empire's crescent moon. According to one story, when bakers in Vienna helped defend the city during the 17th century Ottoman siege, they celebrated victory by baking pastries shaped like the enemy's emblem, the crescent. By eating it, people symbolically devoured their foes. Over time, this pastry evolved and spread across Europe, eventually becoming the French croissant we know today. Back in modern factories, shaping is done at incredible speed. Automated rollers and conveyors pick up each triangle, roll it into a spiral, and curve it in one smooth motion. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of croissants can be shaped every hour without human hands touching them. Despite this efficiency, the beauty of the croissant remains the same. Each roll captures dozens of layers stacked neatly inside, waiting to puff up in the oven. And the crescent form is more than just aesthetic. It allows heat to circulate evenly during baking, giving every croissant the same golden crust and fluffy interior. From history to modern industry, shaping transforms a sheet of dough into an edible icon recognized around the world. Once the croissants are shaped into their classic crescents, they're not ready for the oven just yet. The next critical stage is proofing, the art of letting the dough rest and rise before baking. During proofing, trays of croissants are placed into large climate-controlled chambers. These rooms are carefully adjusted to maintain the ideal balance of warmth and humidity. Typically, the temperature hovers around 24 to 27 degrees Celsius, 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, with gentle moisture in the air. Why is this step so important? Because yeast comes alive here. Inside the dough, the yeast ferments the sugars, releasing carbon dioxide. Those tiny gas bubbles expand within the laminated layers, causing the croissant to puff up. Without proofing, the pastry would bake dense and flat. With proofing, it grows light, airy, and full of volume. But proofing doesn't just affect size, it influences flavor too. As the yeast works, it produces subtle acids and alcohols that enrich the croissant's aroma. That slight tang, balancing the buttery richness, comes directly from this stage. In traditional bakeries, proofing can take 1 to 2 hours. Bakers often judge readiness not by the clock, but by sight and touch. A perfectly proofed croissant should jiggle slightly when the tray is shaken, like a delicate pillow of air. In factories, proofing is scaled up dramatically. Instead of a few trays, entire proofing tunnels or multi-rack chambers are used. Hundreds of croissants line up on conveyor belts, slowly traveling through a warm, humid environment. Sensors constantly monitor temperature and humidity to ensure consistency across thousands of pastries. Timing is crucial. Too little proofing and the croissant won't rise enough. Too much proofing and the layers may collapse, leaking butter and ruining the texture. That's why modern factories rely on both technology and experience to strike the perfect balance. In short, proofing is the quiet stage where magic happens. Nothing looks dramatic to the eye, just dough sitting on trays, but inside, invisible chemistry transforms simple ingredients into something extraordinary. By the end of proofing, each croissant is plump, delicate, and ready for its final journey into the oven. Now that the croissants have been perfectly proofed, they are finally ready to face the heat. Baking is where everything comes together, the butter, the dough, the yeast, and transforms into that golden, flaky pastry we all crave. In industrial bakeries, the proofed croissants are transferred onto conveyor belts that lead straight into massive tunnel ovens. These ovens stretch several meters long and can bake thousands of pastries in one continuous flow. The temperature is carefully controlled, usually between 180 to 200 degrees Celsius, 355 to 390 degrees Fahrenheit, ensuring that the dough rises further while the butter steams between the layers. At this stage, several reactions happen all at once. The water in the butter evaporates, creating steam that pushes the layers apart. This is what makes a croissant airy and full of those delicate honeycomb-like holes inside. Meanwhile, the sugars in the dough begin to caramelize, giving the croissant its rich golden brown color. The Maillard reaction, a chemical process between proteins and sugars, adds nutty, toasty flavors that make freshly baked croissants irresistible. Timing is everything. A few minutes too short, and the pastry will look pale and undercooked. A few minutes too long and the thin layers will burn, turning bitter. Most croissants spend about 15 to 20 minutes in the oven, depending on size and recipe. In traditional bakeries, bakers keep a close eye on each batch, rotating trays and adjusting heat manually. But in factories, advanced ovens with sensors do this automatically, adjusting airflow and heat distribution to guarantee even baking across thousands of croissants. The smell at this stage is legendary. Imagine the warm, buttery aroma filling an entire factory floor. It's enough to make workers hungry even if they've already eaten. Once baked to perfection, the croissants emerge with a crisp golden shell and a soft pillowy inside. To prevent sogginess, the pastries are quickly cooled on racks or through cooling tunnels. This step allows excess steam to escape while preserving the flaky texture. Only after this cool down are they ready for the next stage: filling, glazing, or packaging. In short, baking is the dramatic finale of the croissant's journey. It's where invisible chemistry and precise engineering create a sensory masterpiece, crisp to the touch, golden to the eye, and heavenly to the nose. Freshly baked croissants are already delicious on their own, but factories often take them one step further by adding fillings and glazes that elevate them into irresistible treats. Once the croissants have cooled to the right temperature, they move on to specialized filling stations. Here, automated nozzles puncture the pastry with precision and inject fillings like chocolate ganache, vanilla cream, raspberry jam, or even savory options such as cheese or ham. The machines are designed to inject just the right amount too little, and the croissant feels empty. Too much, and the filling bursts out, ruining the shape. By the end of this stage, a simple croissant has been transformed into a gourmet pastry. Each one now carries not just layers of butter and dough, but also bursts of flavor and personality that appeal to every taste bud. This is the moment where the croissant stops being just bread and becomes a treat. Whether you're biting into a gooey chocolate center or savoring the crunch of sugared almonds, every version tells its own delicious story. Once croissants are baked, filled, and glazed to perfection, the final stage in the factory process ensures they reach customers fresh, safe, and looking irresistible: packaging and distribution. First, the croissants pass through a cooling tunnel to bring them down to room temperature. This is crucial. If warm croissants are packaged immediately, condensation forms inside the wrapper, making them soggy and reducing shelf life. Proper cooling keeps the pastry crisp and maintains its delicate layers. Next comes packaging. Modern factories rely on high-speed automated systems that can wrap hundreds of croissants per minute. Each machine is carefully calibrated depending on the product type. Single wraps. For individually sold croissants, each one is sealed in airtight plastic or biodegradable film, keeping it hygienic and portable. Multi-packs. For family-sized packs, several croissants are grouped in trays, then shrink-wrapped to ensure they stay together during transport. Premium packaging. For gourmet or seasonal croissants, cardboard boxes or foil-lined pouches are used, often with colorful designs that highlight the brand identity. After packaging, croissants move to the logistics zone. Here, conveyor belts and robotic arms organize boxes onto pallets. These pallets are then shrink-wrapped and loaded onto refrigerated trucks if needed, especially for filled varieties that require temperature control. Finally, quality assurance teams run random checks on packaged croissants, testing freshness, seal integrity, and appearance. Only after passing these standards are they cleared for delivery. From humble layers of dough and butter to carefully packaged products traveling worldwide, the croissant's journey is as fascinating as it is delicious. But beyond the machinery, logistics, and precision, the croissant represents something bigger: the way food connects people and cultures. What began centuries ago as a crescent-shaped pastry in Austria eventually became a symbol of French baking excellence. Today, croissants are everywhere, from corner bakeries in Europe to giant supermarkets in Asia, from high-end cafes in New York to convenience stores in South America. Wherever you go, the croissant has been embraced, reinterpreted, and reinvented. In many ways, the croissant is a canvas for creativity. Chefs experiment with fillings, toppings, and shapes, creating endless variations. From the now iconic cronut hybrid to rainbow-colored croissants that take over social media, factories play their part by ensuring consistency and accessibility, making sure millions of people can enjoy the same flaky delight without needing to visit a French bakery. So the next time you unwrap one from a shiny package or order it fresh at a cafe, take a moment to think about its incredible journey. From layers of dough in a factory to layers of history and culture on your plate, the croissant carries with it a story that's as rich and layered as its flaky crust. And that story is still being written, one bite at a time. Every pizza begins with its most basic building blocks: flour, water, cheese, tomato sauce, and toppings. But in industrial pizza production, these ingredients don't come from a corner store. They arrive in bulk shipments, sometimes by the ton. Flour, the foundation of the dough, is delivered in massive silos where it's carefully stored and monitored for moisture content and purity. Water is filtered and temperature controlled to ensure the dough develops the perfect texture. Huge containers of tomato paste, often concentrated, are blended with herbs and spices in precise ratios to create the signature pizza sauce. Cheese, mostly mozzarella, arrives in large refrigerated blocks before being shredded automatically by high-speed machines. As for toppings, everything from pepperoni to vegetables is pre-sliced, pre-cooked if necessary, and kept chilled until it's time to assemble. What makes this stage so critical is consistency. Every bag of flour, every drum of sauce, and every pound of cheese is tested for quality. Automation ensures that no matter where in the country or the world you buy your pizza, it will always have the same taste, texture, and look. Once the ingredients are ready, the real magic begins with the dough. Industrial mixers, towering machines that can handle hundreds of pounds at a time, combine flour, water, yeast, salt, and sometimes oil. Unlike a small kitchen mixer, these giants use spiral arms to stretch and fold the dough, mimicking the action of a baker's hands, but on a massive scale. The goal here is consistency. Sensors track temperature, hydration, and texture in real time. If the dough is too dry, the machine adds water. If it's too sticky, more flour is dispensed automatically. Within minutes, what started as a loose mix of powder and liquid transforms into a smooth, elastic mass. After mixing, the dough is allowed to rest in large troughs. This resting phase, known as fermentation, lets the yeast activate, creating air bubbles that will later give the crust its soft, chewy texture. Even in a factory setting, this ancient step is preserved because without it, pizza just wouldn't taste the same. Once the dough has rested and developed its structure, it moves on to the dividing and shaping stage. In smaller kitchens, a baker might pinch off a ball of dough by hand. In factories, however, this process is fully automated. Large hoppers release dough into dividers, which cut the mass into uniform portions, each piece destined to become a pizza base. From there, the dough balls travel along conveyor belts into sheeting machines. These machines flatten the dough with precision rollers, gradually thinning it out to the exact diameter and thickness required. Whether it's a personal-sized pizza or a family-sized one, the dimensions are programmed and consistent every single time. Next comes shaping. Some factories use press systems that stamp the dough into perfect circles, while others rely on gentle air pressure to stretch the dough evenly. The edges can even be formed to prepare for stuffed crust varieties. By the time this stage is complete, what started as a rough mass of dough has been transformed into thousands of identical pizza bases, ready to be sauced, topped, and baked. Now comes the part that makes pizza truly mouth-watering: the sauce and toppings. In an industrial setting, this step is just as automated as the dough preparation. Bases move along conveyor belts, and as they pass underneath nozzles, sauce is evenly dispensed in perfect spirals. Sensors ensure that every crust receives the exact same amount with no messy spills or gaps. Next, high-speed sprinklers rain down shredded mozzarella, covering the base from edge to edge. If the recipe calls for pepperoni, robotic arms drop slices in precise patterns, making sure each pizza looks identical. The same goes for vegetables, sausage, or even specialty toppings. Machines are programmed to distribute them consistently. What's fascinating here is the balance between speed and accuracy. Thousands of pizzas can be topped in just an hour, yet every single one meets strict standards for weight, coverage, and presentation. This is food production engineered with scientific precision. With the sauce and toppings in place, the pizzas are ready for the most critical transformation, baking. In an industrial factory, this is done with massive tunnel ovens that stretch the length of a room. Pizzas ride conveyor belts straight into these ovens, where carefully controlled heat does its magic. Unlike a home oven, which might bake one or two pizzas at a time, these machines can handle hundreds simultaneously. Temperatures soar above 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and in just a few minutes, the dough puffs, the cheese melts, and the toppings release their flavors. Sensors inside the oven monitor every second, ensuring even baking from crust to center. The result? Thousands of pizzas rolling out perfectly golden, with bubbling cheese and crisp edges batch after batch, hour after hour. This stage is where raw ingredients finally become the irresistible food people love. Freshly baked pizzas can't just be boxed up right away. They're still steaming hot. And if packaged immediately, that steam would turn into condensation and ruin the texture. That's why the next step is cooling. Pizzas ride along long conveyor belts through cooling tunnels, where fans and chilled air gradually bring down the temperature. Once cooled, the pizzas move directly into automated packaging lines. Robotic arms lift each pizza and slide it into branded boxes or airtight wraps. Barcodes and labels are applied automatically, containing all the necessary information like ingredients, nutritional facts, and expiration dates. For frozen pizzas, an additional step ensures shelf life. The packaged products are sent into blast freezers where temperatures can drop below -30 degrees Fahrenheit. In just minutes, every pizza is frozen solid, preserving both flavor and texture until it reaches the customer. From mixing flour to loading delivery trucks, the journey of an industrial pizza is a fascinating blend of tradition and technology. What started centuries ago as a humble flatbread in Italy has transformed into a global product produced at massive scale. Automation ensures consistency, efficiency, and safety, while logistics networks guarantee pizzas reach millions of people every single day. Yet behind all the machines, one thing remains unchanged: pizza's ability to bring people together. Whether it's a family dinner, a party with friends, or a quick meal after work, pizza continues to be a universal comfort food. So next time you grab a slice, remember the story of that pizza is bigger than it looks. It's not just food, it's the result of an incredible process that spans factories, technology, and a worldwide distribution network.